see the other day that you got the new committee assignment, and I'm wondering what game reps at the MLPA process, and they don't seem to think that they have any authority at all about shipping. And
well, you know, the problem
these
is Fish and Game. There's several things that I think contribute to the problem we see with the Fish and Game Department that's not proactive. It doesn't assert its legal and moral authority the way that I think many of us would like to see. Part of it is that you have this history of being a hook and bullet agency. I mean, there's a deep, deep tradition in the Department of Fish and Game of simply making the world safe for hunting and fishing, which, you know, I think is very important. That's an important part of our heritage here in California, but we have asked so much more of Fish and Game in recent years. If you look at Fish and Game on paper, the charge that we've given it as a matter of public policy, it is a full-fledged resource protection agency, and we're asking it to cover everything from the Sierra to, you know, well off our coast, and we're asking them to do it without anything close to the resources they need to do it. So part of it, I think, is the depth of the cultural disconnect within the agency, but a big part of it also is that they are woefully short of the tools and resources that they need to do their job. And I think we have to tackle both of those.
I was really intrigued by your analogy to the gold rush and making that as an analogy to shipping, and it's really true. We've really tripled the number of global large vessels worldwide, and California alone has 3 of the country's largest 4 ports.
Right.
What do you think the long-term conservation measures can be? What kind of role do you think the state can play in long-term conservation from the different environmental impacts of shipping?
Well, the state's got a very important role to play. Obviously, when you get out into international waters, we lose some of our ability to make a difference, but certainly, you know, within the Golden Gate here, we have direct responsibility, and so for things like the oil spill we saw with the Costco Busan, the state has a tremendous amount of authority, and I've got a bill that'll hopefully do a better job of putting plans in place to protect ecologically sensitive areas when these things happen. We've got a bunch of other reforms being proposed to try to prevent the accidents from happening in the first place, which obviously would be the best thing. But we have to look at the volume of shipping. We have to look at the full range of impacts from this shipping. Nobody is saying stop the goods movement. We all benefit from it. This is part of our economy. But how we do it is really where we need to focus, and we need to have an honest discussion about some of those impacts, and it's not being discussed the way it should be.
One of the main core of our campaign, of our sanctuaries campaign, is we're asking the sanctuaries and EPA and NOAA and the Coast Guard to implement a speed limit of 10 knots for large vessels in the sanctuaries. And one thing we really like about that is it solves a lot of problems all at once. It's a really kind of an ecosystem management approach to it, because when you slow down the vessels, they pollute less, they emit fewer greenhouse gases. It's also a win-win for marine wildlife and the industry, because it makes the vessels quieter, and it also allows them to save money on fuel, on increasing price of fuel. What do you think? What kind of role do you think the state could play in that?
I think within the area where the state can assert its jurisdiction, the state could play a very helpful role in that regard. So that's something I'd like to look at. Obviously, I'm concerned about the ship strikes on whales and marine mammals. I'm concerned about the ocean noise. I'm concerned about the safety. We've got huge ships barreling in and out of the Golden Gate at full throttle, and some believe that the Costco Busan was going too fast. It was speeding along in conditions where it shouldn't have been moving at all, much less at the speed that it was. So that is certainly, I think, going to be a part of a more comprehensive and protected policy.
I'm working on a report right now on Coast Guard's policy since 9/11 in terms of how they regulate shipping. And one thing I found, and this is something that we're going to go public with when the report's done in August, is 4 months after the Costco Busan spill, the chartering company, Hanjin, was actually upgraded by the Coast Guard so that they actually got one extra detention before they were targeted by the Coast Guard. Are you aware of that?
No, I was not.
It made my jaw drop, and it's in the Coast Guard's own annual port inspection reports. Something else I've learned too is that the Coast Guard actually has a program which reduces the number of inspections of vessels by 50%. It moves their inspections from 1 per year to 1 every 2 years if they meet a certain statistical threshold. And one of the countries that has been accepted into that is Liberia, which is
Great.
the world's biggest flag of convenience country. And so Liberian vessels can now come into the bay without any inspections except 1 every 2 years. How do you think the state should respond to these kind of Coast Guard measures of abandoning their responsibility for holding these shipping companies accountable?
Well, I think even in these situations when the state might run up against the limits of its authority and federal preemption might keep us from actually regulating directly, that doesn't mean we have to roll over to poor regulation, lax policies, or even incompetence by the federal government. We should assert ourselves. We have the people of California and the resources of California that we need to protect, and so we should never let a dumb Coast Guard policy go unchallenged.
Yeah, one of the other elements of that I found is, in addition to Liberia, 11 Hanjin vessels also qualify for that program. So Hanjin, which chartered the Koskabusan, wasn't responsible for putting a certificate of responsibility down after the spill. 11 of its vessels essentially are coming and going out of the bay without any inspections for 2 years. It's just, it's shocking that the Coast Guard is just completely, they almost despise the request of the public for them to be held accountable and to speak to the public's need to know.
It seems like a vicious circle. The more of these vessels we have steaming in and out of our ports, the harder it is to do inspections and to stay on top of the standards we'd like to see. And so the less we require, which means even more we'll find it easier to come in and out of the ports.
Right.
And, where does it stop? But it also seems to me that even if the Bush administration and others can't support higher standards to protect our environment, that it will at least be concerned about the homeland security aspect of these vessels basically flying in and out of sensitive areas like this and urban populated areas with no questions asked, no inspections.
That's the irony of it, is that after 9/11 they put into place a policy that they called the 9/11 downgrade, which is essentially downgraded the Coast Guard's oversight of shipping for safety and security reasons. It's mind-boggling. And one of the other things that the Office of the Inspector General, Department of Homeland Security's report even pointed out is that 2/3 of their inspectors are unqualified, and the number of actual investigations they've carried out has gone down by about 98% in 5 years.
Well, that all of these are unacceptable statistics and anecdotes. We need to shine a spotlight on this, and we need to make sure that we don't have this incredibly lucrative goods movement industry being the tail that wags the dog of policy, whether it be homeland security policy in our ports or environmental policy to protect our coastal and marine areas.
Great.
All right.
Let me know what I can do to help you.
No, thank you very much. All right. Good to meet you.